Welcome back to the Empire Sports of Mind podcast. The Jets' playoff drought is extended to 13 years, the longest out of any major sports team. The Yankees are on Yamamoto watch. His decision is expected to come in soon. Nobody knows exactly when, but hopefully soon. We're going to discuss the Giants' loss that basically knocks them out of the playoffs against the Saints, and we're going to discuss the Knicks and Rangers as usual, and we'll also have our picks for the week. John, why don't we start with some Yamamoto watch?
Yeah, Yamamoto watch still continues, Matthew. Today we had some interesting rumors that first it was he was going to the Los Angeles Rams game with Shohei Ohtani in the owner's
Yeah.
box. That was a rumor. That was confirmed by some LA beat writers, like legit people out there in LA. Gets refuted like within 30 minutes by big time guys like Ken Rosenthal and John Heyman. They refute that he's not going there because when I saw that, I was like, he's signing with the Dodgers, like owner's box with Shohei Ohtani. It's not a good sign. But then we were back 30 minutes later. The Yankees were back. Then you get some news out of the Pat McAfee show. Ty Schmidt tweeting out that Yamamoto's the Yankees is done. He says 9 years, $326 million. Now, I mean, I don't know if this is like true. Maybe he's hearing something that others are not. But $326 million for a guy that hasn't pitched the MLB yet. I understand that now they're saying the bidding is at 300 million plus, but I don't know if that's in with the posting fee of believe it would be like 40 million or without it. But that's even if it's not, that's a big chunk of money right there.
Yeah, I think it does include the posting fee, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
Either
so.
way, I've been all on board with, as I've said a lot recently, the money that the Yankees dish out to these free agents is not my money. So ultimately, I don't care about price tags. I care about adding good players and then competing for championships. So Yamamoto, to me, is I don't know if he's going to be worth 300 million. I have my own doubts, quite frankly. I think he's going to be a great pitcher, but to give him 300 million, he's never pitched the MLB is it's a little questionable. It's a little questionable, but ultimately, the reason why I'd obviously be happy to have him on the Yankees is because that I think that he would be a great pitcher. I don't know if he'd be worth 300 million. I still think he'd be a great pitcher. So adding somebody like that to the rotation is still going to be a difference maker, despite the price tag. I so I know. I mean, I know that guy. What's his name? Ty Schmidt. What is it?
Yeah, Ty Schmidt,
Yeah, I
as
don't.
they
I'm
say.
not sure. I don't believe he's sourced like that. No, the deal is done. It's the exact figure,
I think
nine
it's probably
hundred twenty-four million. People, I don't know how people really believe him. I feel he's like baiting people. I mean,
yeah. I don't I don't
there's
think he
been
has
no
anything.
indications
Yeah,
really that the deal's going to go. I don't think it's going to 324 million too. It seems like it seems a little ridiculous. I think it's going to end. John, you said I think what you say 280s, and I
two
saw the
eighties. I
bidding
think.
is that kind of
Yeah.
300. I just can't really see it going above. To
I mean,
324 is a lot.
the only reason I mean, I didn't believe that maybe a week ago, but now I'm starting to believe it because you have teams like the Mets that are in it, and probably the Mets, the three finalists right now, the Mets, Dodgers, and Yankees. Probably like the Mets and Dodgers and Yankees are 1A, 1B, and then the Mets are probably like hoping that he will choose them. I don't think if he goes to New York, it's gonna be the Yankees. Maybe I'll be wrong here in a couple hours, but I think it's gonna be either the Yankees or the Dodgers. And since it's big market teams, I think that could drive up the price. I think we're at a point now where Yamamoto has made his decision on where he wants to go. He's just hoping to get his price up a little bit more by some of these teams. Like maybe he wants the Mets to offer 320 to get the Yankees up to 300 per se. Like I think he's decided on where he wanted to go. It's just like we're in the final stages here of getting that last dollar. I
Mhm.
think you're going to see it pretty soon here because Christmas is coming up. I think he probably wants to go to Japan for that. And his deadline to sign here is January 4th, and you need a physical before that. So I think he's going to sign. I think the next day, I think Andy Martino from SNY said he's going to sign it. Teams are hoping it ends tomorrow. So we're pretty close here. Matthew, I mean, this kind of like, I know that he hasn't pitched an MLB before, but this kind of reminds me of like the Garrett Cole sweepstakes. Like the Yankees were very hopeful. They were going very high with bids. I think the
Mhm.
teams like the Dodgers and Mets were honestly also in on Cole. Maybe not the Mets, I think the Dodgers were the second finalists for Cole. So it seems very eerily similar to when the Yankees landed Garrett Cole. And they really like Yoshi. They really like Yamamoto because I think they
Mhm.
sent a scout out to every one of his starts last year in Japan. I mean, they really and when Matthew, when often do we see like a Yankees that they really like it when they really like a guy, free agent Garrett Cole, they really like Juan Soto, they get him. I
Mhm.
mean, and it's like you saw Bryce Harper, they missed out on Harper, they missed out on Machado. They didn't really want him as much as they do these guys, and when they really want someone, they get him. I'm actually pretty confident they land him.
I am pretty confident as well. I think that first of all, I just want to say how crazy it is. Like you said, like I could never believe that this guy was going to get 300. And I mean, the first time I even heard his name was when Brian Cashman was in attendance in Japan for the no-hitter that
Yeah.
Yamamoto threw. And I was like, oh, this guy wants to play for the Yankees, whatever, has close connection to Cashman. He's good. What's he going to get? Kodai Sengai contract, 5 years, 5 years, 75 million. And it's going to
Yeah.
end up being in excess of 300 million probably. So that's crazy to me. But I think that, the Yankees, the Yankees really don't lose a lot of bidding wars when it comes to free agency. They lose it all the time in trades. They're not willing to get like the best guy on the market in
Mhm.
trades. But when you're right, when they're zoned in on somebody in free agency, they do tend to get him. And yeah, you can talk about Harper, Machado, but there was just never as much traction that they were really,
No.
players in a bidding war for Machado and Harper. When they're players in a bidding war, like they were for Garrett Cole, like they've been obviously, for so many years being the New York Yankees, it seems like they do usually come out on top. And it also, I mean, obviously you want to get a good player, but it does come down a little bit to me as like a pride thing. The Yankees simply, given the market, given the the worth of the team, the Yankees don't lose bidding battles.
Yeah. And I think that also another element that adds on to it this offseason is the Yankees, they were 82. I think they had 82 wins. They went 82 and 82 last year, missing the playoffs for the first time, I believe, in what, 6 years. So there's some extra push from Hal Steinbrenner. Like, and some are saying like he's the closer of deals now because of what happened with Aaron Judge and him with that phone call to ultimately finish the deal. So people are, more confident. I don't know if I'm there yet with Hal Steinbrenner, but I did see some more, I don't know, it's like him caring more last offseason with closing the deal with Judge. And I have, some renewed confidence in this regime with closing deals when it comes to free
Yeah.
agents. And we'll see with Yamamoto. I don't know, maybe he signs with the Dodgers in a couple hours and all that's a moot point. But right now, I feel very, very confident. And if you land Yamamoto, Matthew, I really don't have any question marks. I understand he hasn't pitched in the MLB yet, but you compared his potential deal with Senga for the Mets. He signed for what, 5 years, 75 million. The
Yes.
difference with that is he was 30 years old when he was posted. Yamamoto's 25, so he's right in the beginning. He probably hasn't even hit his prime yet. He's won 3 MVPs in a row in the Japan League.
Mhm.
He's won 3 Japan Cy Youngs in a row. So I don't think you've seen a pitcher come out of Japan with this kind of type of track record. Obviously, Yu Darvish was claimed as the best pitcher of all time in Japan. Tanaka was claimed that the same way as that as well. And you also had Kuroda who came to the Yankees. So there's been like like these guys have come out of Japan and there's been some hype, but Yamamoto has I don't know, just like new level of hype that's come out of Japan. And I think you have another pitcher, also Sasaki, I believe is his name. I'm sorry if I botched that pronunciation. That's going to come out potentially next year. He's 22 years old, and he could be even better than Yamamoto. So there's a lot of talent coming from Japan, and I think that with the track record of these guys like Darvish and even like Senga had a really good year last year, 2.95
Yeah,
ERA.
for sure.
There's I think the doubts of these guys kind of shitting the bed in the MLB is kind of like it is a very low percentage of that happening.
Yeah, no, I think that the track record of all, the game in Japan does translate to the MLB. Masahiro Tanaka, I'd say that's the most comparable example, really. I mean,
Mhm.
at that time, adjust for stuff like inflation and the overall booming of the market and the growth of baseball as a whole, what was it, 7 years, 160 million? That
Yeah,
contract at the time is equivalent to Yamamoto's, whatever he's got, 9 years, 300 million. I think it's really similar. And Tanaka, like you said, was a little older. There have been so many great Japanese pitchers. Darvish has been had a really great career.
yeah, he
Tanaka
has.
was really solid on the Yankees. Even like Kuroda, when Kuroda was a really underrated pitcher on the Yankees. He was solid out
Yes, he was good.
and he doesn't get enough love. I think he was a really good pitcher for the Yankees. It was 2 years, 3 years, but
Mhm.
the Japanese pitchers do really well in the MLB.
Yeah,
So I know that people are concerned about his height, this, that, but ultimately, it's not even like he has a 3 ERA in Japan. He has a 1.5 ERA in Japan, and it's a
I mean,
competitive baseball league. So
yeah.
really is incredible stuff. I think that and you want to sign guys like Garrett Cole and who was compared to Yamamoto this morning when Aaron Boone said that they're very similar in their dedication to their
Mhm.
craft. And when guys want and really dedicate themselves to becoming excellent and being personifying excellence, I think those are the guys you want to have on your team. And that, to me, from what I've heard, is Yamamoto. So I'd be happy to have him.
Yeah, and another element to this piece is Yamamoto with the Dodgers, rumors there. long ago, Japan players, like, they always wanted to go to a team without a Japanese star already, so they're mainly in the spotlight. I think that's gonna be another element. I know maybe it's a little outdated now, but you saw Tanaka with the Yankees. No Japanese player was on the Yankees at that time. Otani with the Angels. No Japanese player was on the Angels at the time. So that's been a long kind of like a long tradition for Japanese players when they come into the MLB. They want to be alone in the spotlight. They don't want to just be like, I feel like that's an element here. Yamamoto, does he really want to be, because he's going to be the second most important Japanese player on the Dodgers. He's going to be lost in the spotlight. I think he's a guy with, even what Aaron Boone said today, he's a guy that is comfortable in his own skin. He has a presence to him. He wants that, he wants that pressure, added pressure, like kind of like Garrett Cole said in his press conference, wants that pressure. Pressure is a privilege. Like, he's that type of guy that wants a spotlight on him. I think the Yankees is a perfect spot for that. I mean, look, if he goes to the Mets, in my opinion, if he goes to the Mets, he went to the highest bidder. He did not go to a team because he wanted, the glamour of the franchise. The Mets,
Mhm.
let's be honest. I mean, the Mets are the younger brother for the Yankees. They are. They're the little brother. But if he wants to go to the Mets, so be it. I mean, I'd still be excited to watch him over here. I think the Dodgers. I mean, does he really want to be second fiddle to Otani? Up to him. I mean, look, the Dodgers are probably going to offer him over $300 million. Everyone's going to be at $300 million here, Matthew. I think he's guaranteed to get that. Maybe plus the posting fee. I think posting fee, you get him at $300 million, and it's a lot of money. But I think the Yankees, as we said, is that when they want a guy, they do what it takes to get him, and it might be a little, uncomfortable for Hal to go to that much money, because maybe they weren't expecting that when they first came into these sweepstakes. But we'll see, Matthew. I think that there's a good chance the Yankees get him, and hopefully we're talking about him signing, and we'll give a big scouting report on him. All his pitches when the Yankees sign him. We'll be very excited for him to be the second starter in the Yankees. Going to be very exciting.
Oh yeah, obviously. Last point, I think that the Yankees, one of the best selling points, and I know I hear it sometimes, but I don't think I hear it enough. It's the best place to play baseball. I mean, you go to LA, obviously it's a huge market, but it pales in comparison. The fans there,
Yeah.
they care, but it's just a different attitude.
Matthew,
Even
there's
though
no one there
it's
until the fifth inning. There's no one there until the fifth inning in LA Stadium.
yeah,
Let's be honest. I mean,
it pales in comparison. They're laid back, and no, even like somebody like Joey Gallo. I mean, they welcomed him in. He got
yeah,
burned at the stake in Yankee Stadium, and
come
I
on.
think that if you want the pressure, if you want the environment, then there's no other place. Maybe you can go to Boston, I guess. Maybe perhaps. But there's no other place you'd rather be than Yankee Stadium, the Bronx, in a playoff game, and with a team that's won 27 World Series championships in a playoff game. So if Yamamoto wants the ball in those pressure situations, there's no better place to come than New York.
Mhm. Absolutely, Matthew. We'll see with that. Next, we'll move on to a thing that's been around for a while here. The Jets continue their playoff drought after they lose to the Dolphins in embarrassing fashion, 30-0. It's at 13 years now. Haven't seen the playoffs since first grade. Continues this year. I mean, I saw a trend on Twitter, Matthew, the day after the Jets lost, and people would put photos the last Jets playoff win versus now, and it seems like people have grown up. It seems like you see a guy like has a baby face, then you see now he has a whole full beard, has kids, like it's unbelievable. It's the longest drought in all of professional sports, I believe, right now, 13 years. So, I mean, it's the same old, same old. You get Aaron Rodgers, all the hype, and it just blows up in their face.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what to say about this game. I mean, Zach Wilson had no chance. I'm not going to blame him because you saw every play. There were three linemen in his face every single play. I mean, and he had a concussion. It was reported that he played through it. I think his mom reported. I don't know why that's happening. That he played through a concussion. It got really bad that he actually had to. Then he had to tell the medical training staff. Then they took him out of the game. So big disaster. I mean, you bring in Trevor Siemian, throws 2 interceptions, looks uncompetitive. He is horrible. Yeah, just
He's
a horrible
starting
game.
this week, though.
He's starting this week. The defense defense did not look, the best, but it's still, I mean, they give the Dolphins such short field for the first touchdown. They were on the 1 yard line. I mean, that's so unfair from the get go. I mean, you had Waddle burn DJ Reed on one play, but that's going to happen when you're playing a dynamic team like the Dolphins. So yeah, I think a Tyreek play in this game would have been 50-0 Dolphins. So you're not a pretty game, and a game that I actually had hope, and a game that Aaron Rodgers was expected to get activated if the Jets won and play against the Commanders if they won this game. Didn't get it done. And as you see in my background today, his reaction on the sidelines was priceless. Also very painful for Jet fans to watch because he looked very disappointed. He really pushed to play in this game. The Jets won one more game early in the season. If they were still mathematically alive, he would be playing in this game this Sunday. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
adds some disappointment.
Yeah. Ultimately, the Jets scored 0 points in this game. Can't emphasize that enough. They scored 0 points in this game. So nothing worked. There's no like, oh, celebrating the minor victories. Usually I'm like, oh, this guy played well. This guy played well. There's no celebrating victories on offense when you score 0 points like that. So, it starts. I think, yeah, if you recognize that the offensive line did not hold up at all, which it didn't hold up at all, I think it has to start at the run game then. Can we get at least just get our tackles just to touch the guy, and then hopefully a couple holes break up for somebody like an explosive runner like Breece Hall. That didn't happen. Overall, 23 yards rushing. And when Zach Wilson was in the game, before it basically got out of hand, the Jets had, what is that? Negative 11 yards passing, 26 yards passing, and 37 sacks, make up for negative 11 yards. So, totally unacceptable effort on offense. I guess maybe the biggest bright spot here was that Alan Lazard actually played and had 3 catches. That's monumental. That's like his best receiving stat line since week 2 or something. But on defense, it's hard to really fault the defense. They've kept them in a lot of games. I know they gave up 17 points in the second quarter, so it's not like a lot of these points came in garbage time. They came early on, so I guess that's on the defense. But no, it's hard. It's hard to fault the defense when the offense had
really.
the defense was out there. The offense was 3 now, 3 now, 3 now, 3 now. Couldn't get the ball moving, and then the defense was stuck out there. And it's a really dynamic, Dolphins offense with Tyreek Hill or without Tyreek Hill. It doesn't matter.
Oh, I mean,
4 of the top 7 fastest players in the NFL. So, your guys are going to be winded on defense. Your guys are going to be tired, and when the offense can't stay on the field, it makes all of that worse. So, I think this is a mulligan game for the defense. I think that the score wouldn't have been 30 or nothing. The game would have been totally different if the Jets were able to put up some points on offense. It just is a different game. The defense is not tired. They're playing for something. They realize, the offense is playing well. If we just get a stop here, we can score again. There was none of that motivation on defense. So it's hard. I think it's hard to really criticize or applaud the defense.
Yeah, I mean, just a brutal game. I mean, you have Garrett Wilson getting 4 targets. I mean, I think that's unacceptable. I understand that, you can't really you don't have time for long development plays because of how bad your offensive line is. But not to get this guy a screen pass, nothing's working. And you target your best weapon 4 times. Breece Hall gets 6 carries. I mean, that's just on the Jets personnel again, Matthew. It's on Nathaniel Hackett again. This guy has no answer. I understand that he's not really playing with a good line. Doesn't have great receivers outside of Wilson, but just the things that he can control, he's not controlling well. Every single week it gets worse with Nathaniel Hackett. He had a good week against the Texans, and then he doesn't do stuff that works against the Dolphins. I just don't get it. Matthew, Mike McDaniel of the Dolphins is unbelievable. He really is. You can obviously see the strategy for the Dolphins against the Jets was to get the ball out quickly because the Jets' ferocious pass rush. They recognize that in every single play, the ball's out in 2 seconds. Boom, boom, screen pass, boom. Jalen Waddle on a slant. It's just such a dynamic offense. It's an offense that seems to be in sync every single play. They never seem to be lost out there. And even without their best weapon in Tyreek Hill, some are considering him the MVP because they saw the Dolphins without him and they looked lost. Didn't look lost against the Jets defense, one of the best defenses in the league. Mike McDaniel. I mean, the Dolphins really got a good one. And I mean, they could compete for the Super Bowl. After seeing this game, I mean, look, they have some faults on their team. They've had some bad losses, but when this team is fully in it on offense, I mean, it's hard to stop them. I don't even know if the 49ers can stop them on offense when they're fully in it. It's unbelievable. Yeah, no, they're really good. I think that one of the talking points here that we talked about was, hey, the Dolphins' offensive line. It's like they were all questionable to play. Some of them were going to be out, and we only saw. I don't know if this falls on the Jets' pass rush or credit to the overall scheming on the Dolphins, like you mentioned, quick passing. It's a really well-oiled machine on offense, and I agree with you. I think if you put this team, I think the problem is sustained offense every game, scoring 30-plus points because the defense is okay. But they've also had some games where they've given up a lot of points. So, the week before, the Titans giving up 28 points. It's not really great offense. So, I think if you give this team one game, put this team right to the Super Bowl, I think they would win it because they would just score a lot of points. I think consistency is the problem. Are they going to be able to score 40, 50 points like they've been doing all year in 3-4 postseason games? And I think that's the question. Can they do it for all 4 games? But otherwise, it is a really good team. I think that even in years past, the defense has been absolutely terrible,
and it's competent now. No, giving up 0 points to the Jets is no, it's not a Jets haven't had a good
It's
offense
not
all
easy.
year.
It's not a hard task. It's pretty easy. I think that should be
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
but they held no, they've had some good wins where they've able to hold teams to low totals. Like the
Mhm.
Chiefs only 21 points. That's a real. I mean, it kept them. They kept them in the game at least. They ended up losing that game, but kept them in the game. So no, that's been a major weakness for the Dolphins, and it's not like a
Solid.
strength, but it's league average or below league average. No, so
And
ultimately it's improvement. But I think the Dolphins are a really good team, and no, the Jets are. No, in this game especially, we're a really bad team. So that's how you end
Matthew,
up with a 30-0 loss.
in the NFL, it always comes down to coaching. This game, you had the Dolphins, right? They have, Jalen Ramsey, one of the best corners in the NFL, coming back for them. And guess what they did? They had him shadow Garrett Wilson all day.
Yeah,
And let
yeah.
me tell you, Garrett Wilson was not effective, obviously.
Hmm.
And you have the Jets on the other side, Sauce Gardner. Jalen Waddle is the only legitimate threat out there. I understand you have Braxton Berrios. I understand you have other shifty guys. But Jalen Waddle is the number one threat. And Sauce Gardner's not shadowing him. Why are the Jets so reluctant to do this? I mean, I understand if Hill and Waddle were both in there, then it's a little complicated because those guys are both dynamic. But why are you not having Sauce Gardner travel
Can I
with
ask
Jalen
a
Waddle? It does
follow
not
up
make
question
any
on that?
sense.
Is
Yeah.
has Sauce Gardner only played on one side? Like, does he play on the right side all year this year, or does he rotate
No.
and just not shadow?
He rotates, and they're always their excuse for it is always, "Oh, we play zone, so it's not in our scheme." Oh, it's to be a good coach in the NFL, you have to adapt, and the Jets just seem to have this reluctance. Oh, it's not in our system. It's not something we could do. We overcomplicated it. Like, no, come on. If you're a really good coach, you adapt. And I think it's a no-brainer for Sauce Gardner to shadow Jalen Waddle. It really is. And that's the difference, Matthew. Good coaching and bad coaching. You saw
Yeah.
with the Dolphins, they kept Garrett Wilson pretty much in jail all game. So that's a difference in the NFL.
Yeah, and they're just I mean, on coaching, there just hasn't been a lot of good coaching on the Jets side. There's not been like a moment where it's like, "Oh, no, the scheme really helped them win this game. The scheme helped them do this." No coaching, really good coaching decision there to call this timeout to get the ball back. Ultimately, it was a decision that worked. Everything is kind of a mess coaching wise. Timeouts, there's actual offensive scheming. It's all a mess. And so no, it's really especially if the Jets lose out, it's really I know Aaron Rodgers endorsed the coaching staff. It's really hard to bring all of them back next year. It just is.
Yeah, I mean they are coming back. I mean, he said on the
They're
show
coming back. Yeah.
he gave them all their endorsements. And the bottom line is Aaron Rodgers has control of this organization. I mean, whether people like it or not, that's the truth. I think that the Jets are pretty much desperate. Nothing has worked these past 13 years, so why not try it with an all Hall of Fame quarterback? I understand, it could all blow up in their face, and they could have a horrible season next year. Maybe Rodgers gets hurt again, and it all blows up, and then they clean house after next year. But you cannot part ways with Aaron Rodgers after not even seeing him play past 4 plays. I think it's the only right decision for the Jets to have. They're desperate. Aaron Rodgers is going to recruit a lot of free agents. I mean, I don't see really the fault with that. Maybe don't bring all your Green Bay friends, Aaron, next year. But Devontae Adams, I wouldn't mind. Mike Evans, like recruit these, and you need linemen too. I mean, I don't know what the cap situation is exactly. I'll study that more when we do our
It's
offseason
16
preview
million with the opportunity to cut guys. No, Latham
and restructure.
Tomlinson's at
They're gonna do a
21.
lot of
Yeah.
they're gonna do a lot of restructuring contracts this offseason because of I think them being all in. I think they're gonna the players are gonna be all in as well, and they're gonna be willing to move some money to add some pieces. And look, I mean, big offseason. This is probably the biggest offseason in Jets history. It goes to this again, as same as last year. Biggest offseason, them getting quarterback. Next year, biggest offseason, and we'll see if they're going to be all in with Aaron Rodgers. And I think they're going to do
Yeah.
what's in their best interest to acquire offense, defense, maybe a couple depth pieces, but it's going to be all offense, linemen and wide receivers mainly as their
Yeah.
targets.
We've talked about this. The defense is coming back next year. A lot of those starters are under contract for next year, except for Bryce Huff, and they still have
Yeah,
depth at that position. So, hopefully you bring him back, but they have
I don't.
back
Yeah,
options there. It might just not work.
I
And
don't
you're
think
right.
Bryce Huff is coming back. I mean,
Yeah, and you got to
to
allocate that
pay other
money.
guys.
You got to allocate that money with good intentions as well. I mean,
Mm.
loading up at edge rusher, having good pass rushers is good, but would you rather have 7 good pass rushers or a competent offensive line? So I think that's
You're right,
one of
Matt.
the
Yeah.
decisions that they have to make, and obviously it goes to the offensive line, and ultimately the Jets have whiffed on a lot of things on the offensive line. I know Mekhi Becton. No, that was one thing too this game. I think he gave up was it 2 or 3 sacks. He gave
Oh,
up
Mekhi Beck, he's been terrible. Yeah, he's
And
been
the
bad.
game before he gave up 2 sacks, my
Yeah,
perception of Mekhi Becton was that when he's out, he's always injury prone, but when he's out there, he's good, and he's defied that reputation. So,
yeah, it's
what's
over.
going on that offensive? They haven't even drafted guys that play well when healthy. So I think it's a problem.
The only guy that they've drafted that's played well this year is Joe Tippmann. He's been the most consistent offensive lineman, and even he didn't have a good game against the Dolphins. But I think it's kind of hard to have a good game as a center when everyone else around you is bad. I think that also hurts you. So I think I like Joe Tippmann. AVT, another guy that Jets drafted, he's always injured. I mean, he's always injured. Can you rely on him? I think they're going to have to, right? They're not going to be able to acquire 5 new stars on offensive line because of the cap situation. You're going to have to rely on some guys that you have on the team already. I think Lake and Thomas, you're going to have to rely on AVT. And potentially, I think Mekhi Becton's done. I mean, what are you going to franchise tag him for $18
No,
million
he's gone.
next year? He's gone. I mean, and another guy that Rodgers loves, right? He there's a story of him like hugging his mom and then them having a good relationship. Mekhi Becton went to his birthday party, so hopefully, I think they're going to part ways with him because of the money. But look, you have to consider it that Rodgers has a good rapport with this guy, and maybe that's why they keep him
Yeah.
in the end. But I
But
don't
keep
think
that in
that's the
mind as
right
well.
decision.
You don't have a tackle heading. You don't have a single tackle heading into
You
this.
don't.
It's a
The
big
only
problem.
tackle you have is AVT, and he's not even primarily a tackle.
Yeah,
You
I
don't
think
have
he's
it.
a great guard. You put him at tackle, he's probably just good.
Yeah,
So
you're right. Yeah.
no, it's a trade off. That's just how it works. So
Mhm,
no,
mhm.
the hope is that if the Jets end up where they project, 6-7, there's gonna be a
Joe
good
Alt.
offensive lineman, or Joe Alt or whatever that guy from Penn State. There's gonna be
Yeah.
a really good offensive tackle available. And okay, that fills one of the offensive tackle spots, but they're gonna have to pay up for a second offensive. You can't cheap out and get
And you know
Billy
what,
Turner,
Matthew?
Carter Warren, whoever the options are there.
The thing is, the Jets haven't really cheaped out. Like, there's been times in free agency where they have given these tackles, the top tackles in free agency, the most money. It's just the tackles haven't decided to play for the Jets. Like, the Jets have tried their best. And look, you criticize Joe Douglas because he hasn't drafted well, an offensive lineman. You criticize him there, but free agency, he's done. I mean, I think, and you look at guys like that he signed that they let go. Font is having a great year.
Font, yeah.
And Roden, the guy from my high school, Greg Van Roden, had 2 bad years
Yeah,
with the
but
Jets,
Font
having
was the
one of
guy
his
to
best.
keep over
Yes.
Dwayne Brown. But that's
Yeah,
decision
a bad
making.
decision. That is, yeah, exactly. So
So
there's
but
been some good signings there.
that's
Just
yeah.
deciding to keep these guys or not has not been good. I mean, you've
Mhm.
had these guys that are potential to play. Like as I'm going to say, Greg Van Roten is having a really good year for the Raiders this year. A guy that had a really, I think that's coaching as well. Like, the Jets have really bad. They can't develop these guys. They can't make them better.
Mhm.
I think they have to. I think what you're going to get this offseason is the coordinators are all safe. Hackett will keep his job, and you might have Jeff Ulbrich actually going to a head coach job. So that might be a change there. But I think you're going to get a lot of positional coach fires for someone to be the scapegoat, and you're going to have them all the coaches return. And I don't know if
Yeah.
that's going to be the right decision, but that's the reality of it right now. As of right now, it could change over the next few weeks, but I don't see it changing. Even if they score 0 points in the next 3 games, I don't see it changing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. And speaking of bad offensive line play, the Giants lost to the Saints 24-6, gave up 7 sacks. They gave up 0 sacks against Green Bay the game before. And this game, the score looks like it was not competitive. At halftime, it was 7-6. But no, this game, there was
Yeah.
something about this game. There was just chaos going on. Tommy DeVito
Mhm.
left. Concussion protocol comes back. The Giants kicker gets hurt. Then the punter's kicking as lefty, and he makes a field goal. There was just like chaos going on in this game. It just seemed like it was a crazy game. But ultimately, the Giants lose 24-6. A lot of those points came in the second half. I thought the defense did a really good job keeping them in it in the first half, and then it kind of just got away from both the offense and the defense in the second half. But I think the thing here is that the offense just didn't look as good as it has the past couple of weeks under
Yeah.
Tommy DeVito. The run game couldn't get Saquon Barkley going. 9 rushes, 14 yards. Couldn't
Mhm.
get him going. And receiving, a lot of those reception yards came in the second half. They really could not throw the ball well in the first half.
Yeah.
But it basically puts the Giants out of the playoff race. Not that
It's
they were
over, yeah, for
really
them.
ever in it, but it was fun.
They
for
were. I mean, if they won this
Yeah.
game, they were. But you have to play the Eagles 2 times, and the Eagles coming off 4 losses, they're probably not going to lose again to the Giants on Christmas. So I think that, yeah, you're probably right. They probably were never in it, but they had a chance to still be, mathematically alive. They're still not. I think they're still mathematically alive, but it's
Yeah.
not going to happen. They'll be eliminated after this week after they lose against the Eagles, most likely. But what I saw in this game is Tommy DeVito, and a lot of people are saying like all the analysts are saying about his film. It wasn't. It was probably one of his best games on
Yeah, it
film.
wasn't. It really
Like
wasn't that. It
for
wasn't
the
really.
decisions that he
Yeah.
had to make with like he had no time with the offensive line. They were
It
all
was
after him all
pressure.
game.
Yeah. No, what are you gonna do?
Pressure, and he didn't do bad. I mean, he still ended up the stat line 20 for 34, 177, no touchdowns, no picks. But I don't think this is like saying like, oh, DeVito finally crashed down to the earth. That wasn't the case here. The case was the stuff that was out of his control. The Giants did not do well with protecting him. The receivers weren't great in the first half. No running game. So, I mean, he did all that he could. I mean, they lost the game 24-6, but the defense wasn't great. You know, Derek Carr, one of the worst. I think he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. The Giants really couldn't stop him from scoring. Tommy DeVito, I mean, I wouldn't say that the Linsanity run per se for him is over. Really wouldn't say that. I would say that stuff out of his control is why they lost this game.
Mm-hmm. That's totally fair. I think you look at Tommy DeVito's starts, and they scored 31 points against the Commanders, but his film, from a lot of people, they're saying his film. He had 3 touchdowns, also 0 interceptions against the Commanders. His film in this game was better, so I don't think this falls on Tommy DeVito. I would agree with that, but it falls on the offensive line. No, I thought they made progress. Giving up 0 sacks against the Packers, I really thought they made progress. They were gelling as a unit, and then immediately they just. I don't know if the Saints. The pass rush is good. I think it's above average, but it's not something like where the offensive line should have been totally dominated like this.
No.
I mean, they just it was really bad, and I think that that's ultimately why it translates obviously to the rushing game as well. You can't find holes. The defense is swarming you as soon as you hand off the ball. So it doesn't fall on Tommy DeVito, but it's the offensive line, and we've seen this now for the Giants in 5 or 6 games this year. We're giving up 7 sacks, like Week 1 against the Cowboys. Totally wrecks the game plan, wrecks the game overall. Leads to a loss. So I think it just at this point, the Giants aren't making the playoffs, but it's a lesson, and it's a reoccurring lesson that next year you have to get the offensive line right. So it's at the minimum, not a game wrecker in games.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, look, the next 3 games for Tommy DeVito, you have the Eagles twice and the Rams. So 3 playoff teams as of right now. It's going to be a trial run for him.
3 real tests.
I know. And I think if he does well in these last 3 games, there's going to be some competition for the quarterback. If I were to have to guess, I think Daniel Jones is probably going to have the edge, obviously, because of what he's getting paid and his track record. I mean, last year had a pretty solid season. But, yeah, I think there will be some pressure on Daniel Jones if DeVito finishes out the season strong. I really believe so. Maybe that's a good thing for Daniel Jones. I think it's a good thing. I mean, competition always brings out the best. But as we've always said, Matthew, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. But we'll see. I mean, it's not a horrible problem to have, but we'll see over these next 3 games. I think you have something to watch for as a Giant fan, at least, to see how DeVito does in the next 3 games.
Yeah, and at the minimum, he's competing to be the backup next year, or at least be a third.
Yeah, I think he's already proved that he could be a competent backup. I think he has, unless he dramatically falls off.
I mean, that honestly, that this is a great, undrafted free agent pick, undrafted free agent. For him to be a backup, that's great value. I mean, they were previously paying Tyrod Taylor, was it $7 million a year to be a backup? So, he's a free agent after the year, and Tommy DeVito is going to fill in that role, and that's great. He's shown he's probably capable of doing that. So good on the Giants. At least, if nothing else this year, they have a solid backup QB. So that's something.
You're right. It's something.
You're right. The last 3 games here, I mean, maybe they win 1, but it's hard to see them winning out and surprisingly make the playoffs. But I think the thing here is looking at future pieces. Who's going to be on the team next year? Guys that, it's not tanking. I would still say against the Eagles, I'm rooting for the Giants to win. I'm not rooting for the Giants to necessarily tank and get the better draft pick. But I want to see the guys that have struggled this year, or guys that are going to be on the team next year. I want to see them do well. I want to see what they have. I want to see what we got in our draft picks from the past 2 classes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think that's very important. I'm not in tank mode. I just want to clarify that.
Yep, I'm the same with the Jets. I just want to see them finish out the season competitive. I want to see them finish out I don't want to see guys giving up, because that's not you want some momentum into next year. You're right. I'm over. We're both over tanking for both our teams. We'll move on now to the Rangers, who's coming off a really good win against the Maple Leafs and the Bruins away, both on the road, win both of those games with Igor Matthew, who we discussed on last episode, was a potential concern. You said he wasn't a concern. I said he was. Turns out you're being proven right here. I think that he's played really good over the past 2 games. I know it's only 2 games, but it seems like he's more under control.
Yeah, I think it's a positional thing. What I noticed 2 games watching him is fundamentals, emphasized, really solid. His positioning is, even with the Russian goaltenders overall, their positioning is always fantastic. So I think, the emphasis was just on like make the save rather than, or get a pad on it rather than make the save. And I think there's a subtle difference there. As a goalie myself, making the save is get the pad on it, and then the rebound directed to a corner. When it's a glove, make sure you catch it in the glove. And getting a pad on it is, just make sure the puck doesn't get in the net. So there's a big
Yeah.
difference there, and I see an emphasis on the latter, which I think is fine. It's going to lead to a few more rebounds until Igor's regains his confidence to fully make the save, direct rebounds, really control and handle the puck like we're used to seeing him do. But this is good progress. I was not really concerned about his decline in play. I think he himself understands that he's one of the most talented goalies in the NHL, and he should let his fundamentals and what won him a Vezina just 2 short years ago take command.
I think you're right. I think it was never a talent thing. I think it was just a mental thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we see with Igor. I mean, I think they showed, I believe, in the pregame before the game. In tie games, he's good. He has like a 917 save percentage. But when it gets out of hand, when the Rangers fall behind, it seems to get in his head and everything unravels after that. So it seems like when he's in the game, when they're in a close game and things are going his way, he's fine. But it's just when things unravel and come out of his control where things get bad. And
Yeah,
that's where he struggles. So yeah, it's a mental thing, and it seems like he's really making some progress here. I think tomorrow night, Matthew, we will both be at the game. I think he's going to start tomorrow night against the
is he?
Oilers too. So another really good test against a really solid offensive team with McDavid and Draisaitl, obviously. But these ones are really good. I think in both these games against the Bruins and the Maple Leafs, really good defensive game from the Rangers. Like there
Yeah,
wasn't many high danger chances for both these teams. I mean, maybe a couple Matthew shots, maybe a couple Pasternak shots, but other than that, I mean, there really wasn't much the Rangers were given defensively, which is something that's really refreshing to see. I mean,
yeah.
like obviously, like the reoccurring theme with the Rangers is with the Lundqvist days, they always relied on him to make 40 saves a night. Igor, before this year was always 40 saves. Same thing as Lundqvist, like relying on your goalie to save you. But it seems like things have shifted here, where the Rangers are really one of the best defensive teams in the NHL, and it's continuing these 2 games.
Well, especially the Boston game, they gave up 22 shots, and I wouldn't say a lot of those were particularly high chance. I think the defense has done a really good job of just being responsible, which is something that they weren't last year. And there were just, I've said this a couple of times, there were times last year where we would come on the podcast and we'd be like, what the hell was going on? Like nobody had this guy in front. They just turned over the puck like this. They had no clue where the other defenseman was. Just mental gaffes across the board, and you don't see that this year. Somebody's always covering the man in the slot or in front. There's nobody ever has time behind the net or in front of the net with the puck. And I think they just do a really responsible. It's not that the guys are super skilled, and they're really good, but they're really responsible. It's not like a lot of like terrible, stupid mistakes. So I think that does go a long way. I think also the defensive depth is excellent. I think the third
Yeah, it's
pair
great.
of Schneider and Gustafson. Schneider is probably a guy that's struggled a little bit this year. No, he's even when that defensive kind of slide was happening, that was probably their worst defenseman,
But
out of the 6. But for him to be your 5th defenseman or 6th defenseman is a huge advantage because I think on many other teams, and Gustafson too, I think Gustafson might be a first-line defenseman on other teams, and Schneider would
yeah,
probably be a second-line defenseman. So to have those guys on the third defensive pairing, and then obviously Miller, Truber, Fox, and Lindgren are established players who are very good, is such a huge advantage.
yeah. I mean, Matthew, you said it the best. I mean, defensive depth is unbelievable here, and Schneider had his best game against the Maple Leafs. I mean, he
They
was
really were.
on it, just really just the most noticeable player all game, offensively as well. Like he had that great coast to coast goal to give the Rangers the lead there. He had the game winning goal. Yeah, he's been really good, and Truba's been really good. I think this is his best year as a Ranger, Jacob Truba. I mean, there's been some question marks. Like I even like raised some concerns with him. In the playoffs, he was spotty. He let up some bad goals. I mean, misses Simons, and that probably had to do with coaching, right? I mean, he was a great player coming out of Winnipeg, but the Rangers just didn't have good coaching. Maybe he didn't know where to be, and the structure wasn't there. So you're seeing a really good Jacob Trouba this year. Adam Fox, I think when the first couple games got back from his injury was a little spotty, but that's to be expected. Maybe he didn't trust his his injury there, and now he's fine. That's all. That's also a mental thing with guys. That's when they recover from an injury and come back to be full 100% there. So he's been really good over the past few games. Lindgren's been solid all year, and Keandre Miller I think has been really good too. So I mean, there really hasn't been any liabilities on defense this year, and something what the Rangers are not very used to. Usually, there's liabilities on the first pairing on defense for the Rangers, but this year it's a different theme.
And I know you have concerns. You've had concerns in the past about Trouba making whatever $8 million a year, being the player that he is. But I think the role that he's in right now is perfect, and I think he's worth the money. I think that from a skill perspective and strictly on ice perspective, yeah, he might not be an $8 million player, but let's factor in that in 2021, 2022, he played 81 games. Last year, he played 82 games. He's not missed a game this year. He's the captain of the team. He's also like a leader on the team. He's done. He single-handedly helped the Rangers advance in 2022 as well against the Penguins. That was huge, taking out Sidney Crosby. So, can't discount the fact that as well. So, on the ice, maybe he's not an $8 million player, but he has lived up to that contract. He's been a really effective player overall for the Rangers. And he eats a lot of minutes as well. Penalty kill.
I think
yeah.
I think the captain, he's been really good. I think that was a really good choice. I was questioning it at first, and everyone did. I think it was a little bit of a shock because you have players like Fox that could have been the captain. Zibanejad, people were expecting. Kreider, because he's been around with the team for so long. But Trouba was a shock, and I think he's proved to be a really good choice for the Rangers as a good leader on the team, kind of like a silent leader, like leading by example type of leader at the Rangers. Not really a vocal one. You don't really. Maybe I don't know what goes on in the locker room, but doesn't seem to be a vocal one what he does on the bench. But
also
he leads by example.
Those hits.
That's leading by example. It sets the tone for the team, and I really think that he's done really good. And I really couldn't be more. He can't do much more as a captain. I think he's fit well into the role. Here in the first 2 years of that role. So it's been good. Jacob Trouba, he's back on my side. I've always been critical of him, but because of how much money he makes too. But he makes so much money. Like, he has to be playing like this, and he is. He's playing like the $8 million player that the Rangers paid him to be. So
he's been great. And then on offense, I think that recently highlight a couple players. I think that they've gotten really good production from Johnny Brodzinski as a fourth line center. What is it? 7 points in 10 games or something? 7 points in 11 games. Can't ask for much more out of him on the fourth line.
Yeah.
And then also as of late, I want to pull up the exact stats just to be sure. But Blake Wheeler has 5 points in his last 4 games. So kind of coming around a little bit.
Fine.
Got off to that kind of slow start. I would still admit that he can't see
the right winger,
His feet are not working in unison. Like it's hard to explain, but his feet don't really work well. But the scoring touch is coming back a little bit, so that's something. And then also, one player we were really concerned about, especially 5-on-5, was Mika Zibanejad. And it seems like over the past, really this December period, he's been really good. 12 points, 6 goals, 6 assists, really on point, especially last couple games. So he's been playing much better.
Yeah, and Trocheck too, Matthew. I mean, second year as a Ranger, he's been really, really good this year. Almost a point a game type of player here, and he's really showed a lot. I mean, second line center wins faceoffs this year, much better than last year. He struggled last year at faceoffs, but this year's been much better.
Well, he was still top. He was 56% last year.
He was. Yeah, and what is he? Is he
62?
What is he this year? Is he saying? So yes, I mean 62. That's unbelievable. I mean, one of the best there. So I mean, you have a lot of guys like even Zibanejad. What is Zibanejad at? Like 56?
I'll get it. I'll get the stats for you. But the Rangers overall are a top faceoff team, which is it's
unbelievable. It's night and day.
I can't emphasize it enough because when you have bad faceoff play, you really see it. But winning the faceoffs on the power play, on the penalty kill, in overtime, in big moments, is so key. It's such a huge part of the game that goes unappreciated. Yeah, and they're doing a really good job. Every big faceoff, they put Trocheck in there. He wins the faceoff. And even Mika, you're right. Across the board, they've been much better.
Yeah, I mean, Mika's that was something that he struggled with, and now he's doing that. He goes lefty on some of the faceoffs in the left in the right circle, I believe. I mean, that's really innovative, and I think that's helped him. I mean, and Matthew, when the Rangers used to pull their goalie when they were so bad at faceoffs, you didn't have a chance because they would lose the faceoff.
Yeah, they always struggle with that.
They wouldn't. You have to gain control late in the games when you need a goal, when you're down, when it's tied, with overtime, when you need to win the faceoff 3-on-3. So faceoffs are a really underrated part of the game. When you're good at it, it really helps your team out.
Yeah.
When you're bad at it, it'd be a really bad detriment.
Here are the official stats. Trocheck 64%, so he's winning 2/3
Yeah,
of all faceoffs, and he wins all the big ones. Like on power plays, he takes all those faceoffs. Does a really good job. Nick Bonino 52%, which is
that's fine.
solid, and Mika for somebody who's always struggled 52%.
Yeah, that's
So,
solid.
but he's
I mean, it
always been
really is
sub 50%. Now, it's a big difference, and
huge
across the
difference.
board, even when they put in Goodrow's, solid on faceoffs, and Brzezinski, and
Yeah.
even who knows who takes faceoffs really on the fourth line, but
I will say that that fourth line is some. I think that fourth line is really good. I mean,
VC
I
and
maybe
Goodrow
don't
do a
score the
nice
most
job
goals.
out there.
They
Mhm.
always have a good forecheck. I mean, I mean, they might not get the best scoring chances because you're not having guys with like great talent on that line, but they've really impressed me. I mean, a fourth line last year that had no chance of scoring, no chance of sustaining,
Oh, it was so bad. Yeah.
big offensive pressure.
Jake
Like
Jake Lecision.
yeah, Leshizian was there. I think you had Reeves for the first
Oh,
part of the year,
we
right?
could go through that list again.
He was
It's a bad
terrible.
list.
Yeah, it's so bad. And now having a solid fourth line is huge to take some pressure off the other lines. So yeah, Rangers are playing like a team right now, playing like a unit, and everything's clicking. We'll move on to the Knicks now. That
Mhm.
coming off a big win against the Nets last night, battled New York. And it really wasn't really much of a game. I mean, we were blowing them out essentially all game. And they were in control. And I mean, bad news. I think adds to the game. Mitchell
Yeah.
Robinson is probably done for the year. So I mean, that's a big loss. I mean, you have Taj
Yeah.
Gibson who can't play more than 5 minutes. Hardenstein is stepped in good in that role and backup, but I don't know if I trust him as a starter long term. So it's a big loss. It's a big loss for the Knicks, and we'll see if they could maybe trade for some help there at center.
Yeah, no, we had this on our last podcast, concerned or not concerned, the Mitchell Robinson injury. And I think did you
Yeah.
go not concerned?
I did because I you said 6 to 8 weeks, so I
I
was like
said the
not
same
concerned.
thing. Not concerned.
Yeah,
He'll come back. Isaiah Hartenstein will fill in just fine, and Jericho Sims. But Jericho
yeah,
Sims is now hurt. Isaiah Hartenstein, I think,
not good.
has been solid at center. But no, Taj Gibson. I said this yesterday to you. I've never seen this before. He played 4 minutes in the second quarter. It was 8 minute mark. 8 minutes left in the second quarter, and while he was running on offense, he didn't even run. He was hands on his knees walking up the court, and he made a signal to Tom Thibodeau like I have to I have to come out. And then they put in Julius Randle. And not only did Taj Gibson not go to the bench, he went straight to the locker room because he was
Yeah,
winded.
that's
He was
that's
winded after
unbelievable.
4 minutes. So I don't think
Wow.
this guy. No, he's a good leader, and I guess he's okay as the fourth string center. But now you're thrusting him into a real role as the backup center, and I don't know if he's capable of handling that anymore. So I think at this point, it's now a concern. I think you have to sign a backup center, and the Knicks have shown reluctance to make the big trade for like a real center. So
Yeah.
I'd be okay with bringing back somebody like Nerlens Noel. I like Nerlens Noel or
Mhm.
somebody similar, somebody comparable who can fill in competently as a backup center.
You're right, and I think they need it, right? I mean, because Jericho Sims, I mean, he's a nice player, but now he's out with the injury. Taj Gibson is 38 years old, like, and he was winded. So I think he's he probably came off the couch. He was probably sitting on his mother's couch with
Yeah,
all the
he's not
stories in the
really
NFL. He's
I
probably
don't know.
straight off the couch. I mean, he can't, probably was not conditioned, probably hasn't ran in, a couple months. So, I mean, not really shocking there. He's just here because he's a big Tom Thibodeau guy. And
Yeah,
he can provide some help. I mean, on the defensive side, he's at least a big guy, so at least he's going to guard the paint in some fashion. Maybe if it's not, a very
yeah,
effective,
he's
he's at
there.
least
He's
there. His
around him.
presence is there. He's around the paint. But Matthew, we mentioned with the Knicks depth. I mean, Dante DiVincenzo, 23 points last
They're
night.
really good.
I mean, every night is a different guy stepping up. It really is. Like quickly, one night we'll have 30 points. DiVincenzo 25. So you're not really relying on Brunson and Randall as much. I mean, they're still providing great. They're still providing really good numbers for your team, but like even if they have off nights, you could still win games. Like that's something that what couldn't be said like the past couple of years because of their limited depth options. But I mean, Villanova Knicks, Matthew, DiVincenzo's been solid some nights. Hart stepped up when he's had to. And Archdiakono doesn't play, so he's a good bench warmer, good cheerleader on the bench there. So that's important for team morale. But I mean, really, the Knicks depth is so good this year. I mean, it really is. They have some potential 6-man of the year options.
Yeah, no, DiVincenzo, I think you could look at whatever 9 points a game and Josh Hart as well, but I think they really play good brand of basketball. Always did. The Villanova players do really they rebound well, they play defense, they shoot threes, really well equipped for the modern game. And
Yeah.
that's just the truth of it. And I think that No, another guy who deserves a shout out for his play in December is Julius Randle. I know you were
Yeah, yeah,
calling
yeah.
for him to be gone, but
Mhm.
he's just playing composed. He's really heeded our advice. Maybe he's going to therapy classes. I have no clue, but you're not seeing like the angry every call, like what's going on, technical fouls, that he's taking terrible shots, deep
You're
threes.
not?
No, you're not seeing that this year, and it is a big difference. And I think that you're getting the usual. He's a good rebounder. He can pass the ball sometimes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he always scores points. I think that you're just seeing a more composed version of Randall, and that's been always kind of been the keys to success. And you're seeing it,
Yeah,
and
you're
he's
right.
playing really well.
Yeah. I mean, Brunson's been great. Look, Randall, I owe him a little bit of apology. I still can't really trust him in the playoffs because of what
Oh
I've
yeah,
seen.
that's fair.
But I mean, he still has to change that narrative. But in the regular season, he's fine. I mean, but I think he can still be a potential piece in a trade. I understand that you would want to keep him as a potential 3 guy if you land another superstar, but he's still a guy that can be used in a trade. I think RJ Barrett is also a type of guy because he's still young.
Well,
And he
he
hasn't been
struggled a
great
little bit
as of
this
late,
year. Yeah.
but he's still a nice guy to have on your team to average 18. But he's not going to be that number 2 overall pick. He hasn't lived up to that, but he's still a solid player. RJ. I thought he was going to be living up to that at the beginning of the season. He was averaging like 25
Yeah, he
in the
did have a
first
really
5
good
games,
start.
but
Mhm.
he's cooled down a little bit. I think he had that. What do you have? That concussion, migraines or something? Maybe it has something to do with that.
Migraines. Yeah.
Maybe it has something to do with that. But he hasn't
Yeah,
been the same
RJ
RJ.
Barrett's a good player. I mean, I just think that
Can't shoot. He just
yeah,
can't shoot.
and it's just a problem to really rely on him to carry the team, and that's what they were doing. Factor in 20. When they against the Hawks in that playoff series, it was Randall and Barrett. They didn't have Brunson. Who'd they have at point guard? Kemba Walker
You're
or
right. I didn't
Mark
realize that.
Rose? No, Barrett was the number 2, and now he's basically the number 3. Some days he's the number 4, like last night behind DiVincenzo, and it's a role that's suited for him. He does well in that role, but when you rely on him to be the number 2 or the number 1, and that's when you start getting problems because being the number 1 and being number 2 require you to shoot threes, and that's just something he
Mhm.
doesn't do well. So in this role, he's a good player. Obviously, I'd be willing to move off him in a big trade, but
Mhm.
no,
Definitely.
he's you. I just thought no. You saw the progression across his career. He averaged 14 points his first year, 17 points his second year, 20 points his third year, and I just thought he was going to continue on that growth path. 23 points, and now he's just back. He's
Mhm.
kind of stagnated at that 17 to 20 point range.
Mhm.
So I think that's what he is as a player.
Yeah, a little bit less of an all-star. Still a nice player to have on your team, but can be a potential trade bait option if the Knicks decide to pursue a superstar in that package. So, Matthew, we'll move on now to our NFL
Yeah.
picks. I believe you won last week 3.5 to 3. You had 1 push. I had my 3-point hit. So, Matthew, you have honors to go first. I'll cue up the music, and we'll get started. Let's cue
Yep.
up the
Hit
music.
the music, and my 1 point pick is no. Last week I had the picks. I picked Cleveland -3, and the game ended Cleveland winning by 3. What is that called? I'm blanking.
A push.
A push. I had a push last week. I don't know why that escaped my mind, but I'm looking for redemption this week with the same exact pick, Cleveland -2.5. And one of the reasons here, again, I want to emphasize again how much I like Joe Flacco, one of my favorite quarterbacks. But also, I don't think CJ Stroud missed practice again today, missed practice yesterday. Not sure he's playing in this game. The Texans,
No.
no, they did beat the Titans last week, but I just don't believe. I mean, I don't believe in Case Keenum at quarterback. I just don't know. Devin Singletary had 121 yards rushing. I think he really bailed them out. I don't see that happening again this week. The Browns are 9-5, really pushing. They've won games. They found a way to win games. I think that continues this week.
All right, for my 1-pointer, I'm going to go out to Philadelphia. Christmas Day matchup with Tommy Cutlets against Jalen Hurts. The Eagles team has lost 3 straight. Really surprising there. But the line is 13.5. Philly's at home. Look, divisional games are always pretty much close. I mean, excluding the Jets game this past week. But divisional games historically are always close. I think this line is, Philly is going to be motivated to win this game. Maybe they come out and crush the Giants. But 13.5 for me is too big of a spread. And the Giants are going to be motivated to finish off the season strong here. So I have the Giants plus 13.5 on the road.
Yep, my 2-point pick. We go to Seattle. Seattle just beat the Eagles, and they're finishing up a stretch where they faced the 49ers, the Cowboys, the 49ers, the Eagles. That's an incredibly tough stretch. Can't understate that. No, I think that they've played against four great football teams, and that elevates your game. And now you're going to a not so good Titans team. I think it's an opportunity to really capitalize on the momentum of winning the Eagles game, and really, prove that this is better than a 7-7 team because they've had a really tough schedule. So, I have Seattle -3.
All right, for my 2-pointer, I'm going to a really good game on Sunday, probably the best game on Christmas Eve. Cowboys-Dolphins in Miami. Cowboys coming off a really bad loss against the Bills, getting crushed there in Buffalo. Miami obviously coming off that big win against the Jets 30-0. Miami's favored by 1 here at home. Not really much of a home field advantage. Probably gonna be more Cowboys fans there because they really travel well in Miami. It'll probably be even. So not home field advantage is not a factor here. So you're essentially having a neutral site game here. But I really trust the Dolphins after that offensive performance against a really good Jets defense. I understand they were on the field a long time. I just have confidence here for the Dolphins. Probably getting back Tyreek Hill. Cowboys coming off a bad performance. Maybe it continues. And, I'm going to have Dolphins cover the 1 point here. Essentially a pick 'em. But I'm going to have the Dolphins -1 here in Miami.
Yep, my 3-point pick is Tampa Bay -3. I'll display my picks. Tampa Bay's on a 3-game win streak. They're facing kind of a reeling Jaguars team. No, I don't think Trevor Lawrence is playing in that game. He has ankle injury, concussion. The Jaguars are missing, I think, their 3 best receivers. Calvin Ridley's doubtful. Christian Kirk is out. And then their third guy, Zay Jones, is not looking trending towards playing. So they're missing a lot of offensive weapons. And I think that the Buccaneers can score some points just because they have Godwin, Evans, some 2 really great receivers. They'll score some points. The Jaguars will have trouble scoring, and then they'll win by more than 3.
Matthew, for my 3-pointer, going out to Pittsburgh, where they have struggled recently. There's reports of potentially Mike Tomlin getting let go in Pittsburgh after the season. I don't know how much that's true, but that would be kind of crazy and earth-shattering in the NFL because he's been around there so long and he's never had a losing season. I think this season it's gonna happen. They're gonna have a losing season because they don't have a quarterback. Bengals, Steelers. I'm riding the Jake Browning train. They're favored by 3 here on the road. On the road, look, it's another divisional game. These games are always so close, especially in this division, the AFC. What is the AFC? Whatever that division is with the Ravens. AFC North is always close games. Always comes down to last possession. But I have the Bengals coming out on top here. And I have the Bengals -3 in Pittsburgh. Jake Browning continues his great play.
Yeah, I like that pick. I think that you're right. A lot of historic coaches might be on the market this offseason. Something to watch. That's not for the Giants. Not for the Jets, most likely, I should say. And
I would get Tomlin in a heartbit. I would.
I would consider it too, but he has not had a really great track record with offensive success.
You're right.
So, but I don't think the Jets are firing Robert Saleh, but you might have Belichick and Tomlin out there on the coaching circuit. So that was something that would be a huge storyline to watch.
Crazy.
2 historic Hall of Fame first ballot coaches. So
you're right. You're right, man.
I like the picks. Another great episode. Yeah.
Yep. Matthew, another great episode. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.